You're listening to the Better for America podcast, presented by AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rebecca Weber, and this is your AMAC podcast, Better for America. Today, I'm so excited to have with me the chicks on the right. These ladies are great. Their website, it was founded by Amy Jo Clark and Miriam Weaver in 2009, but they're better known as Daisy and Macarena. The Chicks radio show airs on weekdays between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. on Indianapolis 93 WIBC FM station. And they even wrote a book. They landed their book deal in October 2014. Their book is called Right for a Reason: Life, Liberty, and a Crapload of Common Sense. They've appeared as guests on national TV, places like Fox and Friends, Varney and Company, and CNN Tonight. Their weekly podcast, the Mock and Daisy Common Sense Cast, premieres on Radio America, and it premiered in August of 2019. And they've got new episodes released every Wednesday. These ladies are really funny. They really make me laugh. And it's so important that we remember the good things in life and our good life experiences. We got to remember good people too. And that is why I'm so excited to share this special podcast with you today, coming up right here, right now on AMAC, Better for America. Hello, chicks, and welcome Daisy and Macarena, also known as Mock. Ladies, tell me, these names are great. Where did they come from? Can you share with our listeners?
Oh my gosh, should I go first?
Yeah. You go first, Mom.
Okay.
You go first.
It's ridiculous, really. It's just a silly story, but I had another blog many, many moons ago in which I mocked celebrities. That was sort of the shtick. And when I was coming up with it and needing an idea for a screen name, I asked my husband, hey, I need something that is like, that has to do with mockery and mocking. What can you think of anything? He was like, how about Macarena? And because that was like when that song was big and all that stuff. Sure. And so it's just sort of stuck. And then it moved with me, as did some of the fans of that blog, to Chicks on the Right.
Right. Oh, that's so cool.
And then she was like, you need a moniker too, because at the time when we started our site, we were like, you know what, we probably need monikers because we both had other full-time jobs and we didn't want to have those two interconnect. And so I was like, I got to come up with a moniker. Daisy just happens to be my favorite flower. It was at the time. And I was like, I'll just go with Daisy.
I love it.
There's really no exciting story behind my name except for that.
No, that is so cool. And you know, what's great is I was listening to you this morning, and I'm urging our listeners to definitely follow you folks. You guys are so funny. But you do have an interesting history. I had listened to a few of your podcasts, and if I remember correctly, it began like 12 years ago, right? So what actually inspired you 12 years ago? It was such a different world than it is today. What got you guys started to do your own podcast and then to develop this kind of following? It's pretty amazing. Can you tell us how you got started?
Mock, you're good at starting that.
Well, so it's a pretty interesting story that people should actually listen to, the full story with all of the twists and turns in that episode of our Click on the Right Mock and Daisy podcast, because you tell the whole story of how we met, which is a really incredible story. But in terms of what drove us ultimately to start the site, it was the impetus really was the 2008 election. And so, you know, you can hear the story about how we met at that podcast that we just referred to.
Is completely,
it's a story.
Yeah, very serendipitous, very divine. That's how I feel. I think it was a divine intervention. I think that's why we met and why we're together. And it's kind of a crazy long story because I went to school with her husband when we were itty bitty, and we never knew each other then. So we were meant to be friends is basically what it boils down to.
That is great.
Yeah.
You know, in 2008, we started, really AMAC was formed. It was an idea in 07 and started in 08. So we've kind of, that's really cool stuff.
Yeah. But we actually, when we worked together in 2008 and we went to work obviously together every single day. And that's when Obama Mania started.
Yes,
as you recall.
I do.
And we would go to lunch together every single day. And I remember being at lunch, and I went to her and I said, we should start a blog because we talk about this stuff every single day at lunch. And it was weird because we weren't political before then, but we just happened to be talking about the political landscape. And so I was like, we should do this. I was a writer at the time. She was in HR, but she's a fantastic writer. And so I was like, we should put this in a website, all the stuff that we talk about, but do it in a way that's really casual and not buttoned up and not like super pundity or, the way that we saw a lot of other people doing it, a way that was very casual where people could understand. It's like two chicks just sitting across from each other like we did at a Mexican restaurant eating chips and salsa. And so that's what we did. And that's why chicksontheright.com was launched back in 2009, February 2009. And,
I love it.
And that's where it all started. And
such a great story. Such a great story. I mean, and
there's
you're very
so
authentic.
much more to it. There's so much more to it.
How can people find the story? Where can they go?
It is episode 22.
22.
Of the Mock and Daisy podcast. So if people want specifically to hear that story, and we recommend it because it's unlike any other "How did you all meet?" story that's ever been.
It really
Episode
is.
22. Excellent. Thank you. That people will run to that, I'm sure. Well, speaking of everything you've done and really reaching people online and through platforms like Facebook and Twitter. I mean, the latest news is this whole big tech censorship, right? And especially of conservatives. And I think everyone should be concerned. And so even watching your live cast this morning, you mentioned, I think that you were down like 14,000 followers on Twitter. I think it's so crazy. What other platforms will you be using to get your voice out? And what do you think of all the censorship? I mean, it's hard to imagine, really. I never thought we'd be here a year ago. Where are you going? Where are you moving? Or do you see the followers dropping off day by day? Or
it's interesting because we see them dropping off on certain platforms. On Facebook, interestingly, right now we're actually up a little bit, but I don't expect that to last. So, and part of it is people are getting kicked off platforms, but part of it is that they're voluntarily leaving because they're so angry that Trump has been kicked off these platforms. So we actually did a post on our website at chicksontheright.com that lists all the places that we currently are and all the places that we're migrating to, particularly if the crap really hits the fan and we do get taken down from some of our more popular platforms. And so, we are on Rumble. We were on Parler until Parler got taken down completely. We're looking at Locals. We're looking at MeWe. We're looking at there's plenty of opportunities and other platforms to explore. And we're kind of trying to narrow down where we're going to be based on where most of our following goes. It's just that there's only two of us and only so many hours in the day.
Right.
So we can only do so much.
And I get very defiant about it. Just like, I think I'm just, I don't know. I just get really angry and extremely defiant about leaving. We get a lot of people who will write us and call us and tell us and say, I can't believe you haven't already left, because these are such un-American tactics that they're using. And I totally and vehemently agree with them. I do, because I get it. It's awful what they're doing. It's terrifying what they're doing. It really is. Absolutely terrifying. But we are not leaving because it's our It's our business model, first of all. It's how, they've absolutely squelched us to the point where we've been squeezed so much that it's hurt us and hurt so many others. But at the same time, I'm not just going to tuck my tail between my legs and just go away. We're going to stand and we're going to be there until they drag us out of there kicking and screaming. So that's just how we are.
I think that's a great attitude. And I understand what you're saying. I read this morning, there was a company called Patriotic Me, I think it's called. They were banned from advertising on Facebook. Now, their sales dropped over I think 95%. They sell T-shirts. They sell American stuff. They sell things like the American flag. I couldn't find anything on their website. So that was it all bad. And I'm thinking now 95%, drop in sales, and they were advertising on Facebook so successfully. American stuff. It really is. It's, right that people are concerned. And so that's one thing. Our members, they know we're fighting for them. We're looking to push back on censorship. Mm-hmm. Section 230. We're going to do a lot of work.
I love that. I love it. Anything in our store, because we have a little store at the top of our website. Anything that happened to do with that had to do with 2A, which was very minimal. I mean, we would have little cute shirts in our store that said like 2A is bae, because this is what all the millennials say these days.
Sure. Yeah.
And they were cute. They were like cute little junior tees and stuff like that.
Right.
Our store, the people who have our store, the format, they just took them out of there. And so we were like, seriously, these are shirts that say stuff about 2A. And furthermore, this is in the Constitution. So how is this dangerous in any way? I mean, these are shirts.
I know it. It
so
really
it's
really is scary. And it reminds me too of AOC, who's saying that we need a commission on media literacy. I mean, first of all, I don't know how AOC has any real credibility, because I heard her say things like everyone should own their own home before any business can make a profit. These are the kinds of things she says. So rather than having some sort of commission on media literacy, she needs a course on economics, I think. But when she says, I want to rein in the press, I mean, can you imagine? We're hearing this from somebody who she herself, I think, participated in the spread of false information, especially when we saw how much Trump was attacked. And she backed a lot of those statements that we now know are false, like the Russia collusion and all of that. She wants to now rein in the press. But I think when she says disinformation, what she really means is anything that goes against what the left believes or says. So it kind of sounds like authoritative or authoritarian ideology. This is not America. What say you about that? What do you guys think?
She's absolutely insane.
And say it like it is, Mom.
And it's if people can't see how reminiscent that is of 1984 and how dangerous it is and how anti-American it is, then there's something really wrong. And actually there is something really wrong. And that's that no one learns about civics or history anymore. So people with ideas like AOC, those ideas propagate because that's what kids are learning in school. We're in a time now where all the symbols that you just mentioned, that Patriot, I don't remember the name of the company, Patriot Me or something like that. Is that what you said?
Patriotic Me. Yeah.
Patriotic Me. So all of those symbols, the American flag, the national anthem, symbols of our United States freedom, those are looked at as racist symbols now. And those are things that now are anti-American. Like if you have a flag in your yard, you're at more risk of getting vandalized. I mean, that's where we are. And so when you talk about it's so disingenuous too for people like AOC, who is so angry at Trump for ever using the term fake news, for her to now be saying, I want to be in charge of deciding what is official news and what isn't. Yeah. Thank you, but no.
Yeah, but it's pretty typical. And then, I've actually just being best friends with Mock over the past 12, 13 years. I mean, I've learned a lot even from her because of her family and where she comes from and just her familial background, because her parents came from a background where it was riddled with communism and socialism. And so just the way that she was raised, because she's first generation American. I wasn't raised as a first generation American. I just was American through and through. You know what I mean? So it's like I took it for granted. And so when I met Miriam, it was one of those things where it's like, wow, I mean, this is a girl who was raised by parents who legit did not take this country for granted. And so it makes me look at America in a whole different way. And so over the past decade, I really have learned I always have been conservative, but just knowing her, it's made me appreciate being an American even more because, I don't take it for granted anymore. And man, these kids today, they do. They have no idea how grateful they should be to be Americans. And they just have
true.
And they're taught to hate it. They're just taught to hate it. And it breaks my heart. It breaks both of our hearts.
And the thing about them that they are The very ideas that make America great are what they're trying to change. Mm-hmm. And that's what's so hurtful. I still maintain that the people that are the most patriotic Americans are those people like my parents,
right.
who actually naturalized and came and escaped communism to come to enjoy the freedom that America provides. Mm-hmm. They are more patriotic than most people who were homegrown here.
Right. I agree. I mean, that's why it's so important that we remember the past and that we share history and the truth. It's so important. I love that. And I think our members are going to love to hear that too, because you're right. It's those real life stories. It's people, it's so easy to forget. It doesn't take a lot of time for us to forget and repeat the same mistakes. They say, history repeats itself.
Yeah. Especially when they're too busy, teaching kids gender pronouns instead of history. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah.
You can't even make this stuff up. And what's so interesting, you mentioned 1984. I think that's so cool because my husband and I just last night, literally, I'm not kidding you. I only got through half of it. I fell asleep, but we put on 1984. We spent like $3.99 to watch it on Prime.
Wow.
And as we're watching, because I had never really seen the whole thing or don't really remember the whole thing. I mean, I just turned 50 years old. So I grew up when that was a big thing, 1984, the movie. And as I was watching it, I thought, this is really scary. I mean, back then, never... this was all like sci-fi and like, this could never happen. And now we're really seeing that how much censorship in our news, in our newspapers, online, websites being shut down. We're attacked constantly. And now what's happening? So I want to talk to you too, because what's happening to Trump and what's happening with our Congress, they've got this second impeachment passed in the Congress, and we know it's stalled in the Senate. I think it's so bad for our nation as a whole. I think it's so bad for everyone because it's not about unity like Biden is talking. It really, and he's leaving office next week, right? Yes. So the Senate has adjourned. They're not going to meet. I think it's January 19th. And I think Mitch McConnell, he said, we're not going to do anything until after he's gone. But apparently they can do something. They can hold like a special follow-up vote, right? So this would only require a simple majority to vote. And if they do, they could ban Trump from another presidential run in 2024. So he could never seek office again. I was talking to people who do think that he's going to run again in 2024. It's crazy how the silent majority today is growing bigger and bigger and bigger. We're afraid to even say that we like Trump. We're afraid to put our flag outside our homes because we don't know what that now represents to people on the far left. Do you folks think that this is going to sort of go away, that things are going to, the pendulum is going to swing back and things are going to feel a little bit more like they used to 4 years ago or 10 years ago? Or do you think that the left is going to push so hard as to really make it impossible for Trump to build this strong base that he has and expand this strong base of patriotic Americans that love our country?
I don't think Trump is going to run again. I don't think he's going to be political again. But when I say political, I don't think he's going to go into politics, but I think he'll probably do something in the media. I've always said over the past couple of years that he'll do some sort of media or start some sort of media conglomerate. I think he's so fed up with it. I think the media is what is the force that really was behind ruining him and trying to destroy him alongside our government.
I think so
a lot
too.
Of the government officials, the media is they're so much of an accomplice in all of this. Yeah. And they just have never taken full responsibility for the destruction that they've caused over the past 4 years when it comes to ruining America. I mean, they act like they had no part in it, and they had such a huge part in all of this.
It would be great if he could form like another Facebook or a Twitter, something along those lines. He's got or
even TV or radio.
There you go.
It would be fantastic if he went into TV or radio, because we're really lacking a lot of outlets that are conservative, and we're starting to. I know there are some out there that are good, but it would be great if there were more.
Yes. I do worry about the fact that he was so different than any candidate that we've ever had before. And he was good at capturing people who either didn't vote or who voted Democrat or were so disillusioned that I worry about those people not finding another star to attach their wagon to. There's never going to be anybody else like him. So I mean, I don't think there's any question about that.
Can you imagine two Donald Trumps in the world?
Right. But I think what we've seen over the past, couple years, but more so amplified just over the past couple weeks, we've just seen it so blatantly and loud and clear, is the left's their thirst to seek and destroy anybody or anything that goes against their groupthink or just the way that they are. They don't want anybody that goes against what they think, which is so completely un-American. It's bizarre to me. It's just bizarre.
It is. It feels like the Twilight Zone.
Right. I worry too about the apathy of people, especially now on our side, who are, and we hear it all the time. We hear people all the time saying, well, I'm just never going to vote again because the vote is rigged and there's no point. And now it's more important than ever that we continue to realize we're not alone. There's plenty of Trump supporters and conservatives out there who really want to, see that pendulum swing back. And so it's one of the reasons that we're so pleased to be partnered with AMAC, right? Because we know when we've got a membership with AMAC, you guys are actually using that money to lobby for conservative causes. So we feel like we're getting another voice, an additional voice, in addition to our own.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Totally.
And it's so, there are things to be positive about. There are things to be hopeful for. And I love that you said that, Mock, because it doesn't end here. Our fight doesn't end here. We know how to get things done. We every day, literally come in, we've got 100 people that are just so focused. They have their heads down and focused on serving the American people. So a lot of really good things, I think, will come of this. I think we need to be patient. And like you said, we need to remind ourselves that this is America. Like you said, Daisy, we're not different today than we were. We just have to remember who we are and stay true to our values and the traditional values that made our country so great. And speaking of hard work, I admire you both so much. I told you I love the way that you guys are together. You have such great chemistry. But the energy and the way in which you deliver information is so refreshing. But how the heck, I'm a mother. I work too. I'm busy all the time and I have days that are good and bad. How do you folks find the time? And for our women in our age group, lots of them that are listening right now that are juggling both career and family we know is so important. How do you do it? Can you share any tips with us on how you manage it all? Really, it's a great question, I think.
I have no idea.
I would say,
good answer.
For Mock and I the reason I think that we've done it for so long is because we love our country. We just love it. Our site has been our baby, and we love each other. We're best friends. Nice. And so it's easy because I think it's easier. Believe me, there have been days where we've been like, God, do we have to do this? Because I'm tired and I just want to go take a nap. But to be quite honest, we just have an affection for each other and we just respect each other and we're best friends. And so honestly, I want to see her every day just so I can catch up with her.
Oh,
and so
that's wonderful.
So before we do our video in the early wee hours of the morning, we get that 10 minutes of time with each other. I'm speaking for you, Miriam.
I'm right there with you.
Okay. But we get that precious 10 minutes of time to be able to catch up with each other and to be like, how you doing? You all right? How are the kids? What's going on? I give her some gossip. She gives me some gossip. And that's, this is how we keep up. And, this is what we do. I feel like other women do this too, just in a different way with each other.
That's
in
true,
different
I bet.
format.
Yeah.
And we just happen to have this business that we've built together. And, we love our country. We just have this common love for our country. We want it to be the same as what we had for our children and for your children and for everybody's children. Right. And so
I think that's great. And that's why we share that mission. Right. My father, he started AMAC actually. I got a whole story. Next time we get together, I can share that with you. But when he formed this organization, it was just that. It was, I love this country. Now, how can I help make it better? And so sometimes just that idea alone, I want to encourage people, if you have an idea, like start, putting things into action and into motion, because there's so much that we can do. And I love that, having a friend that has, shares the same fundamental beliefs is so important. And it's so hard during COVID. People are so trapped and they don't have a lot of places to go. And so this is wonderful that you folks bring so much to the table in the way of information and fun.
We've also been very, very fortunate, and I know I speak for both of us on this point. We have been really lucky that we have incredible support from our husbands who have, in many ways taken a back seat in a lot of circumstances and jobs and in whatever, to make sure that we have the resources that we need and the support we need and the childcare that we need help with all of that stuff. They help us juggle. And I can't imagine doing it without them.
Oh my gosh, there's no way.
That is such a wonderful message. I love that message, because I think a lot of men are undervalued in so many ways today. I mean, guys are stepping up like crazy, helping women get their careers off the ground. And they really are so brave to be able to do that and to understand that, a woman's voice is so important, and men and fatherhood is so key and important.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And I get what you're saying. I mean, that is great. We're blessed. We're blessed to be surrounded with good people.
There's no way we could have done it. And for 12 years without them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so good. Right. I love to hear that. Well, thank you ladies so much for joining us today on AMAC's podcast.
Thank you.
I want to encourage everybody who's listening to share this podcast with family and friends, because we are the fastest growing alternative to that other 50 plus organization. Daisy and Mock, thank you so much for being with us today. And please, to everybody listening, don't forget to tell your friends and family to join AMAC, because AMAC represents all Americans, especially those 50 and older. And again, thank you ladies for joining us today. And look forward to having you back with us soon.
Definitely.
Well, we're so delighted to partner with y'all.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
to
much.
everybody. Look forward to seeing you all back here next time on AMAC's podcast, Better for America. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Better for America podcast. To learn more about AMAC and all it has to offer, visit us at www.amac.us.